Hey, welcome into the Stinky Truth Podcast. Mark Schlereth alongside my co-host, Mike Evans. Thank you so much for downloading, listening, watching, subscribing, doing all those things. Appreciate it. Mike, how are you, buddy?
I'm great.
Yeah.
How are you? Would you like to take this moment to talk to everybody out there and maybe, I don't know, do you want to issue a retraction or an apology?
Retraction or apology for what?
Well, Dallas Cowboy fan is really upset at you for the comments you made in our last podcast about Jerry Jones and how they'll never win bleep. It went viral. National headlines. So would you like to apologize?
I know people are sending me things from Fox News, right? Like, are my bosses going to fire me? No, I haven't heard from my bosses. I've said that 100 times before. Am I going to apologize? Like, I'm afraid of Cowboy. Ooh, Cowboy fans coming at me. Here's Cowboy fan. Big hat, no cattle. You guys got no cattle. I mean, come on, give me a break, Cowboy fan. Oh, we're this, we're that, we're that. You guys are, I mean, seriously. I've said that time and time again on national television. I just didn't use, a derogatory, like a curse word. But that does, my opinion doesn't change, and real Cowboy fan knows it. If you circumvent or you emasculate or you take away the authority of the head coach, what do I always say about a head coach? And this is Mike McCarthy or anybody who coaches for the Dallas Cowboys under Jerry Jones. If that guy is not empowered, then your organizational structure is wrong. It's the same thing I said about Washington under Daniel Snyder. Thank God that turd's gone. So it's the same thing I said about him. It's the same thing I said about Jerry. I've always said this about coaching. There needs to be two types of fear to be an effective head coach in the National Football League. One, you've got to have this biblical fear, the fear of the Lord, which is a reference to awesome reverence or respect. Right? You have to have the respect of your players. And then two is just flat out fear. This guy will cut my ass without even thinking about it if I don't perform. There are going to be consequences to performance. If I perform well, I'll be praised, I'll get time, I'll get rewarded, I'll get a contract. If I don't perform well, I'll get cut. Let me ask you this. If your owner signs a guy without your knowledge and he comes in the locker room and everybody knows you had no knowledge of it, what does that do to your fear factor? You're not in charge. Why should I be afraid of you? It circumvents that guy's authority. And ultimately, when the going gets tough and you're asked to do something you don't want to do, you know what you do? You take the back staircase to the owner's office and you whine and you cry and you complain and in my opinion, my humble opinion, what do I know? I only have 3 championship rings. In my humble opinion, you cannot win that way. You may win games, yes, but is this about winning games? No, you're the Dallas freaking Cowboys. Is this about winning games? You haven't won a championship since the mid-'90s. Since the mid-'90s. So don't give me all this big hat, no cattle garbage. Ooh, I'm mad at you. Ooh, yeah, you guys get some freaking cattle. Bunch of soft, you urban Cowboys is what you are. The urban Cowboys.
You've gone toe-to-toe over the years with Eagle fan.
I don't care.
Giant fan.
I like Eagle fan, by the way.
Jets fan.
Yes.
Bengals fan. I don't know, man. You might have.
No.
This is the big whale here. You might have bitten off even more than you, Mark Schlereth, can.
No. Right. They got spurs and chaps on going to a club. Jingle, jingle, jingle. Wow. Clickety, click, 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 click. Wow, my shiny boots make noise. Look at my big giant hat.
Mark Schlereth, everybody.
No.
Mark Schlereth.
No.
Got some other stuff to talk about here.
So let me just rephrase this. I apologize for absolutely nothing, and I stand by everything that I said in the last podcast.
Okay. Then we move on. I will check that.
Okay, check that box off.
Check that off. That is done. Travis Kelce came out and said that Chris Jones is the best defensive player in the NFL. But yet Chris Jones still doesn't have a deal. Chiefs making a mistake here?
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, I don't know that I would rate him as the best player in the National Football League, defensive player in the National Football League, because there's some guys that, Aaron Donald, what's the cat's name in Dallas? It's a great linebacker.
Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons. Thank you.
Oh, now you're trying to curry favor with a Dallas fan. I see you.
No, Micah Parsons is awesome. I couldn't remember his name, but he's awesome. There's some guys in the National Football League that are just absolute monsters, just beasts. But Chris Jones is in that short list. If he ain't one, he's in the top 5. And here's the thing about Chris Jones. This is the thing about great players and, great defensive players. The one thing that you do when you game plan for a great defensive player is you break the huddle and you find that guy every single freaking play. And then you have a rule, or you have a scheme that helps you block that guy on every single play. So you break the huddle, man, and what's Chris Jones, number 95? You break the huddle, and you're like, okay, where's 95? Where's 95? How are we going to deal with 95? And think about last year. They won a world championship last year in Kansas City, okay? As much as that pains me to talk about them winning a world championship, they won another one. And you think about Chris Jones, like you're breaking the huddle, you're finding him. At one point, when they're in dime, I think they had 7 rookies. When they played their dime package, they had 7 rookies on the field with Chris Jones. So from a protection standpoint, Mike, if we've got one guy, just one guy that you have to contend with, right? You can find a way to double team that guy every single play. Now, it eliminates maybe a back getting into the route, maybe a tight end getting in your route. So now we can only get 4 guys in the route instead of 5 guys, okay? Because we can't go empty. We can slide to that guy, but, they know that you're going to slide. So, to get 4 hands on one guy, right, to double team on one guy, there's many different ways we can do that, but you're giving something up to gain the advantage of double teaming a guy. This guy had 15.5 sacks last year from the inside. That's a significant number, not from a position, like he's not a rush defensive end. He's a guy that slides down over guards in pass situations. So he is a dominant force. And then you played, like I said, in your dime packages, I think with 7 different rookies on the field at the same time in the Super Bowl, and you won it. Tell me the value of Chris Jones. His value for them is immense. And listen, one thing about playing offense, we love on offense to get 5 guys out in the route. Like, we love to put those numbers on you because that's really hard to defend. And if you've got one dude you have to contend with, like I said, there's one less guy you get out in the combination. But if you got no dudes you have to contend with, there's nobody that threatens you. Like you say, hey, there's nobody that we're afraid to go one-on-one with at any time. Like, hey, our left tackle, our right tackle, our guard, our left guard, right guard, our center. If we go one-on-one, we're good with that. So that opens up a whole plethora of plays and opportunities for you as an offense. And beyond Chris Jones, I don't know that there's anybody that they're really scared about matchup-wise of going one-on-one with. So, yeah, I think it's a huge, huge deal for the Kansas City Chiefs, and this really hurts their football team.
You and I, doing this podcast, talking football over the years, it's obvious that there are some guys that you have a lot of respect for.
Sure.
You really admire the way they play the game. Cooper Kupp is one of them.
Yes.
He just suffered a setback with his hamstring, some doubt now as to whether or not he'll be ready for the season. But you love yourself some Cooper Kupp.
I do. Cooper Kupp is just a football playing Jesse. He just is, man. Like, he does everything well, and he's one of those guys that maybe is not he's not the 40-time guy that runs by people and all that kind of stuff. He is just an incredibly smart football player. When you talk to the Rams, you talk to Sean McVay, or you talk to people within that organization, they'll just tell you, the dude's a quarterback that plays wide receiver. He just knows everything. And as a matter of fact, Matthew Stafford, when he went there originally and got traded there, he said the guy I sat down with that taught me the offense is Cooper Kupp. Like, that Cooper Kupp was the one that was sitting with me going, oh, you got to think about this, and you got to do this, and we got it. Right. And so one of the things that the Rams talk about is they talk about, like, they'll play a lot of what we call 11 personnel. So that's 1 back, 1 tight end, 3 wides, right? So when you prepare as a defense for 11 personnel, you're looking at your 11 personnel package and the stuff that you run out of 11 personnel, right? The runs that you run. and the passes that you throw. Well, the thing about Cooper Kupp is they call it in LA 11.5 personnel, because Cooper Kupp can block like a tight end even though he's a wide receiver. So they can, normally if you're going to motion a wide receiver across the formation, you're going to, he's going to cut off and he's just going to get in the way of a defensive end or whatever. He will motion two and work in combination in a tray block, tackle Cooper Kupp on a defensive end. And then he'll motion across and they'll run a quad. Tight end, Cooper Kupp is an extra tight end, motion on defensive end up to a strong safety. They'll motion him through and he'll lead on a linebacker. Like he does, they run a bunch of 12 personnel stuff out of 11 personnel. And so two things, either you don't work on it because you don't think of it that way, or you have to spend extra time working on that, and then you don't spend as much time working on some of the other stuff. So he's an incredibly valuable player in their run game. And he's a guy that just matches up differently and makes you think about the game a different way. So he's a huge value loss for them.
Do you, when you talk to these quarterbacks, and I think about some of the really unique pass-catching quarterback receiver combinations that just seem to exist on another level. Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams, Brady and Edelman, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp. What's the secret to it? What is it about these receivers and quarterbacks that just, they're not only productive, but they just seem to be connected in a way that just kind of defies description?
You just said it. They're connected. I mean, it's
but how?
It's like they went to Hogwarts together. Like it is just, they see the game the exact same way. And like I'll give you, for instance, a route combination. They used to run a thing called a read route in the West Coast offense. Like when I was playing here in Denver, we had a read route. And a read route was like if you're getting quarters coverage, right? And you're an inside slot receiver, you're on a go. And if that safety plays you deep, right, and he stays on the top of you, at about 20 yards, you stop. And, 14 to 20 yards, somewhere in there, you stop and you come back for the ball, right? Now, if you get even with him, bam, this old John Madden, if you're even, you're leaving, right? You go deep and we throw it. Well, what ended up happening is receivers and quarterbacks didn't see it the same way. So the receiver oftentimes going, oh, I got him. He may be 2 yards off. I got him. And the quarterback's going, no, I'm going to throw I'm throwing the comeback type thing, right? I'm throwing the stop. And he throws it, and the guy keeps running, and here comes the safety. Bam, pick, easy, right? Just an easy pick. And it got to the point where you're throwing enough picks on that they stopped running the read route and started running what they called a lock route. You're just going to lock it down. So you're coming back regardless. We're not going to create that confusion for our quarterback and our wide receiver. But Cooper Kupp and guys like that and Davante Adams, they see it the exact same way as the quarterback sees it. Aaron Rodgers told me a story once about he and Davante Adams. He goes, Davante Adams will come to me in the first quarter and we'll run a play. We'll run a play. And he goes, hey, listen, if we get that play again and they're in this defense, right? We get that play out of this 3-by-1 formation and I'm running the slot and I'm number 2. And we get this, they play me this leverage and I'm going to change it to this route. And he goes, and he'll tell me that in the first quarter, like in the first series, and it'll be the second quarter, it'll be the third series of the second quarter, and we'll get in that formation. Davante Adams will look at me and go, yeah, we got it. All right, boom, does it, 40-yard gain, whatever. And so, like, those guys are just on the same page. They see it like a quarterback sees it, and they're never wrong.
But it's rare.
Yeah, because, I think you've got to be honest with yourself and what you see and what you get, and, and I just don't think everybody sees it the same, and those guys just seem to be on that same page.
I know it's not necessarily NFL, but it is. Deion Sanders. Right now, Deion Sanders and Colorado is the biggest story right now in college football. Yeah. There's huge fascination and interest to see if Deion can take all this hype that he's created at Colorado and actually, make it real. But there is the pro football Deion Sanders, and I know you had some great battles, your Washington teams against his Dallas teams, and just as you get ready to watch Deion Sanders emerge on the big time stage in college football, what do you think about this guy?
I'm fascinated by him, man. He's like, I know him, so he is just really a great dude. Like, he really has a passion. You know, you hear it all the time in college football, like a passion for taking a young man or a kid and turning him into a man. You know, like you hear coaches talk that talk, but I think he really invests way beyond football. You know, spiritually invests into them. You know, just everything that you need to do as a mentor. He does that and
turn him into a man, right?
Yeah, and there's a belief. You know, we get boys and we turn them into men type of things. Yep. And I think everybody preaches it, but not everybody is really lives it. And I think he does truly live it. I think the fascinating thing, I've never seen anything like it, man. It has been, you and I both live in Colorado. It has been one of the most remarkable turnarounds from a program that was 1-11 and considered the worst program in college football to you're getting big noon kickoff games twice in a row. Like, they're following you around for the first two games. It has just been, it's been remarkable. Now, my big question is, obviously, they've got to turn it around. They got to win games, or they got to even play. They've got to play close, right? They got to play close, but they got to win some games. But my question is, why wouldn't a potentially big time program that's found itself in kind of the bottom rung of the SEC or the bottom rung of the Big Ten, right? Why would a program like that, or why would an NFL program go, man, you know what? We are fairly irrelevant in the NFL landscape, and if we could land Deion Sanders, the amount of publicity, the amount of juice that comes with Deion, like, it would energize our fan base. We'd sell season tickets, jerseys, the whole everything. What's happened in CU is absolutely nothing short of remarkable. Like, I've never seen this is just like a tornado of positivity that has encompassed the Flatirons. It's unreal what's going on.
I love where you're going with this, because I can absolutely see 2-3 years from now, if he turns this thing around like it is expected to and is hoped to, that I could see bigger time college programs coming after him. But what about the NFL? Because he said that he's not interested in the NFL, that he doesn't necessarily want to deal with NFL players. But man, you're talking about somebody, as we've gotten a chance to know him here in Colorado, you're talking about somebody who clearly embraces the idea of mentoring young men.
Right.
But yet he also has an old school reverence for the guys that played the game. He's had Michael Irvin, Terrell Owens, Warren Sapp. They've all come up to the program to visit with CU, and you could tell, has a lot of respect for the guys that played this game. So I could see an NFL team, an NFL owner saying, this guy might be the best of both worlds. He'll know how to connect with the young players, but still recognize the value of the veteran player.
Right. No, I don't think there's any question that I've heard a lot of college coaches talk about how they're not interested in the NFL until the NFL knocks on their door. And then they've got this insatiable itch that they got to scratch. And so I've seen that, time to Matt Rule. I mean, go Lou Holtz, go to, Urban Meyer, Steve Spurrier. I mean, come on. Like, these guys are like college institution guys. Yeah. They can't wait to scratch that itch. They talk about that. Hey, I don't want to scratch it. But I'm telling you what, it's like laying down in a bed of hay. You may get 8 hours of sleep, but you are going to wake up itchy. You know what I'm saying? You're going to get itchy. Just the way it works.
I guess
you never lay down on hay?
Yeah, you're right. It's going to get a little itchy. It's going to get into some spots you probably don't want it to be.
Right, you can fall asleep.
Yeah.
Take a good nap.
Yeah, but you're going to wake up itchy.
You're going to be like, what the?
Hey, we teach you lessons here on this this podcast. What were your dealings like with Deion as a player?
Oh, Deion was he's just incredible. Like there's 2 times. My rookie year, we came in together, 89, class of 89. A little less fanfare.
Yeah, he was drafted a little higher than you.
He was somewhere in the top 5, I was somewhere near the bottom 5. But
But you did well for a 12th round pick.
don't even start with me. Don't start with me.
10th round.
We threw a pick. We were playing in Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, whatever it was, and we threw a pick. And this is, I was a rookie, so I thought I was an athlete still. I could run, and I actually covered kickoffs in my the preseason my rookie year. So I come screaming down the field, and he just like sidestepped me and stepped out of bounds. I went diving through, wham, landed on my belly, lost where. You're lucky, wee man. You didn't face me man to man. Couldn't even breathe. He just went like this, and I was like, blah, blah, blah. So anyhow, but I'll never forget. Like I think it was my second year because he was playing baseball. My second year, I think he flew in. He either flew in that night. Well, baseball plays at night, so he had a night game with the Braves. I think he flew in that morning. Showed up at the stadium, got dressed, and returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown. Just like woo, doing the high stepping, and the guy was phenomenal. He was just a phenomenal football player. Really put the cornerback position. He really made the cornerback position as a cornerstone position. Like if you look at the guy, because I look at the league its way it was constructed, even in the 70s and 80s. Most of the time, you're playing some form of like cover 2. So the corners, rerouting the receiver, and then he's got the flat, the safety's over the top type of thing, and it's not really as much man-to-man and all that kind of stuff, man. He just made the corner position, like everybody who plays corner that gets paid to play corner, the big-time corners in this league, need to send a thank you note to Deion Sanders. That's how valuable he has been to the National Football League.
Think about it. He took a cornerback punt returner and made himself into a household name.
Yeah.
Made himself into a marketing and business giant as a cornerback.
Yeah.
Unheard of.
Yeah.
Unheard of.
He was amazing, man.
He made playing corner cool.
Oh, yeah. Lay out his uniform before the game, have it all laid out perfectly. Is that him or Jerry Rice? Maybe it was Jerry Rice. Rice that you laid out his uniform. It doesn't matter, man. Like Deion, at prime time.
But for all the dazzle and all the show and everything,
there's substance there, man.
There was some substance there.
There's no question there's substance, man.
He was actually, around the team. Teammates loved him because he actually, within the framework of the locker room, wasn't really.
Yeah.
He fit in.
If you put him in, if you were putting a list together of your top 50 players in the history of the National Football League, he'd be in your top. There's no question he'd be in the top 50, maybe top 25 of all time.
If I'm going to have an all-time team with 2 corners, who are my 2 corners?
It's a good question.
Deion and I don't know, Darrelle Revis. I mean, but I put Deion there first.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's any question.
Well, guess what?
What's that?
You know what we start next week doing?
What's that?
Talk about games.
Oh, my gosh. That's
Week 1.
right.
Week
1, regular season. We got some big news that will break as well coming up here. I think week 1 we'll start that. But anyhow, big news and great things happening right here on the Stinking Truth Podcast.
Last chance to apologize to Cowboy fans if you'd like. Last chance.
Big hat, no cattle. You guys got nothing for me. Come get a taste. Let's go. Hey, for everybody involved in the Stinking Truth Podcast, I'm Mark. He's Mike. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back with you next week. Season starts next week. Let's go.